Okay, so I want to maybe start the day by planning out uh, Mario's castle a little bit. So I think there's this sort of division somewhat, right? Where if I were to map it out, you have these two rooms where each painting is here. And if this is like the central staircase sort of structure, the other two rooms seem to occupy, I guess, these areas. That's my rough estimate right now. So we got Cool Mountain. Cool. This is Thwomp, right? This is Jolly. And this is Bomb. So, all in all, I would say my attempt to plan out the castle map of Super Mario, as he said, right, that to me that I should do. This is more or less what I remember. I think I had to do about this castle. So yeah. Where am I? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to read this text now. Okay, so this castle is divided into 3 levels. Not levels as in the areas you go to in the paintings, but levels as in stories, the stories of the building, layers of a cake. The top level is all sort of like above. The underground level is very undergroundy, very subterranean. The above level is decorated with stars shining on the walls, indicating we're very up. Down in the bottom, we're down in the depths. We can't see any stars. In fact, we're subterraneously down in the earth, walls all around us, brick walls. This level houses paintings that lead to very elemental sorts of levels. Sorry for using those words indistinguishably, the two of them. We have paintings for a desert level that leads us to a world of desert. A water place, which is mainly a water world. So, for example, a lava and volcano place. The cave world, which I can't analyze right now yet. These levels seem very they seem like very sort of like elemental to me. They represent earth, wind, fire, water. That's sort of a comparison I shouldn't be making, however, because one could say it of the levels above. Bob-omb World and Jolly Roger are water and fire, as in Bob-omb is a world of explosives and exploding firebomb and so forth. Their match is on fire. But Jolly Roger is all water and watery depth. So what's so special about an elemental level in the underground world? Well, let's keep looking. What is happening with wind? If I wanted to look at wind and its implications in elemental analysis, what would be the thing to say? Well, on the one hand, Cool Mountain has a gust of wind, but Thwomp's fortress is an air fortress. It's floating in the air, so it's also about air or resonates with the element air, if one wishes. One would need to find a reason to choose one over the other. Why? Because that's just how arguments work. That's how things work, right? Anyway, so how about this? Here's a possibility for a meta-analysis of elements. The bottom level, or layer, of the castle is flooded. The top level is up in the skies. It is filled with decorative clouds and stars. Clouds and stars are very far away from the waters below. Waters tend to be below the skies. Water falls down and it evaporates up. So sky transforms into something that goes up, and water rains down into something that goes down. By the way, I said Thwomp's fortress, but apparently it's Womp's fortress. These levels are pretty cool. I really like them, because they make me feel like I'm floating inside the real world, exploring something that I shouldn't. It's something deep that doesn't quite want to be explored. That's precisely why it feels like a message, because it feels like something to be said amongst people. A person saying something to another person. An I love you or an I hate you, I don't like you. A feeling of two people saying and receiving things from one another, and caring about those things that they receive. Mario receives from Peach a message that says, I like you, I want you. He receives a message from Bowser that says, go away from me, don't go into this castle, scram. The top level of the castle is all about like temporal issues, not just Tick-Tock Clock, but the other levels too. They are aerial issues. For instance, Tick-Tock Clock is all about change. The level changes depending on how you interact with it, how you interact with the clock as you're entering in. It depends on how you enter. The whole world will be different. It will have changed. Change happens to these worlds. Depending on how you see them, things happen, depending on how you relate to them, how you perceive them. The middle level levels are all sort of, they're normal. A sunken ship, a bomb battlefield place, they're pretty good. They're the sort of level where you see something on the painting and it expresses what you will find in the level. This visibility is slightly obscured in the top levels. For example, you can clearly see you're going to a snowland in the Snowman's Land level, but it depends on how you interact with the painting. It's not appearing in the painting directly, so to speak. Or the water, wet dry world level. It depends on how you enter it. You will be entering one type of world or another. The world you're entering into is not directly shown in the painting. It's not directly there. The world inside the painting will behave differently depending on how you behave. It's related to your behavior. Mario becomes a reflection of the worlds. If Mario enters the world flying high, the world will fly high. If he enters it crouching low, the world does so too. It's appropriate that the top levels feature a mirror, because I think that's part of the deal with these upper levels. They're reflecting Mario. So, for example, this room here, like, what's happening with this room? I really like the mountains. I really like looking at them from here, basically, because you can see all the greenness of them, which I think it evokes an interesting meeting between the sky and the mountains. I mean, from here, from where I'm standing, it's a very nice view precisely of these paintings on the wall. You know what I mean? Like, this is a great room to be in. This is a really good room. Here I can see this painting of Peach's castle. Well, it's basically this painting of Peach's castle, which includes a painting of Peach, and I can see it more or less right from here. The engraving of Peach at the top of the castle, made of light. Basically, it's this thing made of glass, and if light goes through it, it would shine. So light could shine through this glass, basically, right? And I really like looking at it. That's a part of a castle that really intrigues me. Why is there a shining portrait of Peach at the top of the castle? Like, what is this about exactly? You know? Speaking of light shining onto someone, I could say right now that I'm Mario again, and I'm looking at all this light, and it says something somehow about how the painting is a place where light accumulates anyway. It's a place where light sort of accumulates and shines into the painting, otherwise you wouldn't even be able to see it, basically, right? You wouldn't be able to see all the light that's looking into the painting to kind of... Okay, so I have some thoughts on Super Mario, basically, based on what just happened, which is basically that I tried to channel Mario, but directly from speech, directly from the spoken word, without improvising, or no, in fact, improvising, but without writing it down. And it's interesting, right? Because it sort of disappeared halfway through. I couldn't quite get to the end of that. And I think it's because the spoken word is more liable to have mistakes in it and things that you hadn't planned. Whereas when I write something in a text, it's more likely that I won't finish it until I consider it finished, right? In the spoken word, there is none of that. And I think that's because that sort of shows there is something about the spoken word inherently that's probably connected to failure in some way, because it's a place where the unknown flows through more consciously. And I think that's what Bowser is about. Because basically that's sort of the division I can see here happening. Trying to say something in the spoken word is unexpected for Mario. Mario receives a spoken word message from Bowser. And this spoken word message is something unknown. Like, one could assume Mario doesn't expect that. He expects Peach and a cake from Peach, because that's what he saw in the text. The text signaled to some sort of an expected relationship. I know my relationship with Peach. I'm on good terms with her. That's why I'm able to receive a letter from her. There is something more known about it. She knows me. She knows how to send a letter to me. I know her. I know who she is without having to read the letter the whole way. Like, I know, you know? Whereas with Bowser, it's like, okay, he's saying something. I'll have to listen to the end because I'm not entirely sure what this is. And it's something that's coming from some place that you didn't expect in some way, and signifies failure at some level, because it's precisely something that is in accordance with some plans that are not your own plans. Anyway, I think that somehow this is something that Mario encounters. He enters the castle and encounters the spoken word, the disembodied spoken word from Bowser. And this confuses him or surprises him. Whereas this confusion is something that he's not quite sure how to deal with. That's almost like the story of the game, you could say. So yeah. So I thought I'd continue talking in a spoken sort of way, because that seems probably the most appropriate way for this section of the video, and talk about what maybe Mario means when he talks about the castle and stuff like that. I'm thinking one thing that you could say about the castle is that it's divided into many different rooms, but then each room extends over into some other world. So each room is also, in some way, each room is then extending into some other place, which in turn has different rooms as well. Because, for example, a level like Tiny Huge Island has different rooms in it. There's a cave, there's different like sections, or whatever. Jolly Roger Bay has the ship, so you can enter into a room in that area too. So there are rooms within rooms, and the castle then becomes kind of huge in some way. In some way, ironically, it is tiny huge, right? It is tiny huge because it's simultaneously a enclosed space and a sort of infinite, limitless kind of space. So that's sort of interesting. That's one thing to note about it, I suppose. I'm not sure if I can say anything else exactly, but I feel like this castle is divided into different rooms, and then simultaneously also divided into different spaces. Like each space has different rooms in it. So, for example, I mean that the first level has a series of rooms, the second level has a series of rooms, and the underground has a series of rooms as well. So it's sort of divided into all these different spaces, which in turn have all sorts of other different spaces in them. And then these spaces are what Mario is wanting to explore. Exploring these spaces is somehow important for the adventure, for Mario, because Mario wants to enter into these places and reclaim the stars that are hidden in there, and with these stars kind of like illuminate the castle somehow. Illuminate it or bring it back to life, bring Peach back to life by the process of exploring the paintings, which in turn are paintings of paintings of paintings, right? So they're entering into this idea of a meeting between infinity and the finite is partly what Mario is exploring, I suppose, in this game. In this meeting between infinity and finite is somehow where Mario will find something. This thing that is found there is what revives Peach. But how, right? How does this thing in the middle between the finite and the infinite help Mario in any way? And what does Bowser have to do with this either? I don't know. Yeah.